back to another episode of Fired Up for Friday. And this Friday is a special Friday. This is episode 6 on March 6th of 2026. That's 3 6s, like 666, my favorite number. And because it's my favorite number, we're jam-packing this episode with extra fire for you. Fired Up for Friday is a podcast series where I tell you what's dropping this Friday, March 6th. I got some rock, some hardcore, some thrash, some doom. We're all over the map, meaning there's something for everybody. If you have new music coming out and you'd like to be featured for Fired Up for Friday, reach out to me at metalinstituteofthrashology@gmail.com, all one long word. And as always, thanks to the bands for sending this stuff over, and thanks to you for watching. This is the whole reason I do the thing. It's because of you. Got a melancholy rocker that's closer to David Bowie and Rush than Metallica and Megadeth. And this one's for fans of the classics like Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, and those rocky, right on the border of metal sounds. I also get some alternative vibes like Dinosaur Jr., maybe even Teenage Fan Club. A ton of influences on this brand new album titled Postscript by Raibard. However, this trio of rock makes those influences their own without sacrificing quality, sincerity, or vulnerability. As one song transitions into the other seamlessly, the strength of this album is in the lyrics and feels, thoughtful tales of grinding out that 9-to-5 workday that we all hate. Some of the songs harken to the days gone by that we all miss. Raibard delivers these feelings with a calmness and a peace, which if you look at my listening habits, quite honestly, that's a rarity. But it was a nice change of pace for me. I'm not a melancholy dude, so I rarely get listened to it. But this one, I really enjoyed. And while this is a lighter fare compared to the metal I usually listen to, or recommend, this is still a solid sound, especially if you're looking for some lighter fare. I listened to this on a nice, long drive, and I found some serenity, and it allowed me some introspective moments and some thought processing. I'm not used to tempos that are under 400 beats per minute, so this was definitely something new and exciting. Maybe not as exciting since it was slower, I don't know, but it was just as good. And I'm giving this one a 71C. It might have been a little higher if it was thrash metal, but this is something I'm not really familiar with, so I'm not really sure how I feel about stuff like this. If you're into that melancholy Led Zeppelin feel, go check these guys out. This is a solid album. A good split with two bands is like a buy one get one free on riffs. You get two different sounds on the same record. And what's one of the crunchiest splits that I've ever heard? The Salt Lake Stoners and Hibernaut dragged their asses from slumber, hooked up with the Flamethrowers in Face Pulp, and this is one down and dirty, burnt out album, just raging to be heard. Delivering 4 smoked out singles that are cavernous as hell. And where there's smoke, there's fire. Remember, only you can start a forest fire, and that you is the Flamethrowers in Face Pulp, turning your ears into the freshest pulp found outside of Florida. And Face Pulp needs 5 songs to match the fierceness of the Bad News Bears from side A. And Face Pulp's grinding blend of death metal with old school influences and feels. I'm starting to think that the dudes in Face Pulp are the type of guys who smoke cigarettes while huffing gas. It's bound to blow up eventually, but the dudes in Face Pulp caught that explosion and recorded it on wax. They sound like they approach metal with reckless abandon, and I love it. Both bands stay true to their roots, and I thought this album would never work out, but their sounds are more similar than I initially thought they were. I really enjoyed this one, which seemed to get heavier as this full length played on. Out now on What's Left Records, and to answer that question, not much. And whatever the hell's left, it's still smoldering. Can we get a clean up in aisle 666? I'm giving this one an 80. Might have been higher if I had more from each one. But you can only put so much on a split. Now, I just got sent this one a couple days ago, but as soon as I pressed play, I was sold. In what feels like an old school punker EP, the Indiana Crushers and Crossfire are handing out auditory beatdowns, And I'm glad I was next in line. I showed up early only for the aggression. About 2/3 of the way of the EP opener, I discovered a bright little lead, and for a moment, I thought there was some melody coming my way. Ha ha! Boy, was I wrong! This is groovin' hardcore, and for fans of the legends, whether it's Madball, Agnostic Front, Hatebreed, Neverending Game, and the mighty Blood for Blood. Unhinged, aggressive vocals that pair really well with the charged and explosive guitar work. My only complaint was it's 4 songs. Where the hell's the other 10? And 4, it just isn't enough when it's this good. Now, there were several guests who were enlisted to help fight the fight with Crossfire. And these brothers in arms made one hell of a difference, as each song sounds slightly different than the previous one or the next, depending if you have this on shuffle or whatever. And off of what's really becoming one of my favorite record labels, Wise Blood Records, it's like a stamp of quality. You know it kicks ass before you even unwrap the vinyl. If you're a fan of those hardcore bands I named earlier, the classics, or even just a fan of punk and hardcore, skip the streams, go straight to ordering. This thing's a banger. It's clocking in at 85, a solid B for banger. Kick-ass stuff, Crossfire. I can't wait to get a whole full length from you guys. North Carolina's Mega Colossus have been putting out their standalone, unique sound of metal for some time now. And here is another killer album to go with their other 4. Following up 2024's full length, Showdown, Watch Out seems to build upon the previous successes of Mega Colossus by continuing to release solid metal albums, doing it on their own terms. Not bowing or compromising to ever-shifting style, sounds, trends. These metal marauders stick with their twin attack of some speed, technical prowess, and clean vocals, rather than today's trend of mixing in all types of blackened and gritty vocals. It's a really easy, but to be honest, quite lazy comparison to compare these guys to the classics like Maiden, Priest, and Dio. But you can definitely hear the influences of new wave of British heavy metal sound. Mega Colossus named the album Watch Out after the song line Look Out by Ronnie James Dio on Holy Diver, which, if you haven't listened to this album, what are you even doing in your life? You have to check out Dio's Holy Diver. It's like a religious experience. That's why it's like holy and stuff. You should check it out there. Mega Colossus apparently did, and it's a big influence on their sound, which means I love it. Mega Colossus is so much more than just a rip-off of those sounds from yesteryear. Mega Colossus also works in power and thrash metal influences into that new wave of British heavy metal sound, making it unique and stand alone to themselves. Look for that killer sound, but it has that modern, updated production, which makes it that much better. I also enjoyed the lyrical content a lot, from battles and brotherhood to escaping everyday life, if only for 45 minutes, which quickly turned into an hour and a half. This one's cruising on Cruise Del Sur Records, and it's cruising to a solid 84. Now, I've heard of original movie soundtracks and scores to films, but can an audiobook have a soundtrack? This story has a progressive metal soundtrack to accompany it across its 10 chapters. Cult of Sun by Black Sea of Trees is a story as old as time of a god who overthrows an established kingdom, bringing in cultural and religious changes through the abuse of power and violence. So I feel this tale that's old as time will connect fans across the globe, as we're all familiar with it, no matter what your political and societal views are. And I'm not going to spoil the middle or the back half of the storyline for you. No one likes spoilers. The music that shadows this epic tale, with highly proficient progressive metal, some doom, some folk, and some Arabian influences that really add a lot of culture and texture, making emotional weight and themes that much heavier. This is for fans of bands like Opeth, Catatonia, and those other prolific storytelling artists that use a more scaled back and melodic approach to that dark style of metal. And while I focused more on telling you guys about the story of this album, because it's great, the music that soundtracks it is just as engaging. So if you're a fan of that Catatonia Opeth sound, do not miss Cult of Sun by Black Sea of Trees. I'm giving this one an 82 because it's a Cult of Sun that I want to join. I like the sun. Where do I sign up? And speaking of cinematic storytelling, Symphonic Storytellers and Leaves' Eyes are releasing another epic tale into the ears of progressive metal fans and symphonic metalheads with their latest full-length Song of Darkness. Frontwoman Alina Saiella sings with the utmost of fragility and angelic beauty, helping add sincerity and vulnerability to these emotionally heavy songs. And the cinematic feels echo the storyline, and it helps listeners connect with the emotions that Leaves' Eyes wants to evoke. There's plenty of rise and fall, twists and turns, as Songs of Darkness has plenty of drama to keep listeners engaged. And I listened to this right after I listened to the Black Sea of Trees promo a few times, sort of like the video. I just followed one with the other. And the best part about it, it was like catching a double matinee, but the screen was in my head. And Songs of Darkness isn't as scary as the usual movies that are playing in my head, but it was just as entertaining. And this will please fans of the Black Sea of Trees. I just told you how good that album pairs with this. So why wouldn't it be for fans of them? And the same fans of bands of Black Sea of Trees like Opeth, Catatonia, and great storytelling albums. But Alina's vocals remind me of Maria Binks from In This Moment or the front woman of Epica. And those are two powerhouse young ladies. Like I said before, you might want to pair this with the previous album, Cult of Sun by the Black Sea of Trees, and make a whole afternoon out of it. I did. It was great. You should too. Just like the famous words of Phil Anselmo, out of the darkness and into the light, I'm giving this one an 80. When I think of the term black in metal music, I think of heavily distorted guitars, heavily distorted blackened vocals, and your local church burning for days. And when I discovered Black Lung's newest album, Forever Beyond, off of Magnetic Eye Records, I was just pleasantly surprised. It's a psyched out doom rocker that's more elevating and airy than your more traditional Black and Doom. So don't get it confused with that, or black metal. Black Lung is a psyched out stoner doom band, and I loved it. And while doom always conjures a dark and evil image for me, Forever Beyond feels exactly that. Beyond your traditional doom, beyond your traditional occult, while exploring what feels like expansive horizons. And while I was listening to this one, the word expansive continually popped into my head over this entire full length. Forever Beyond gave me the same feelings and impressions as Weedpecker's album did just a week or two ago. I happened to sit down and listen to this after a long day of being outside in the unseasonably warm weather. Forever Beyond was a great album just to sit down and relax to afterwards. Although the lyrics tell of the horrors of today, to include fascism, blind nationalism, and political division at the hands of politicians. A lot of you might think these are heavy subjects. They're quite light for me because I'm used to listening to songs about serial killers, school shootings, and mass genocide. And that's just a couple of the Exodus albums I have. So Forever Beyond by Black Lung felt to me like a warm, comfortable sweater from hell. And that sweater had 2026 written all over it. And at least while this world's going to shit, we have some good music to listen to while it happens. So make sure you take the time to breathe in Black Lung's Forever Beyond while we still can breathe. I mean, I think the world's probably going to end soon. At least we're trying to end the world soon. I just read it in the news. And right between bronchitis and emphysema, Black Lung's rocking an 85 straight up in the middle. This melodic thrash album was so damn good, I had to reach out to Legionary to find out more about it. Link to that interview is at one of these corners, I don't know. This melodic thrash metal album, titled The Never-Ending Quest of Purpose, is exactly that. A journey with drama, shifting tempos, moments of bright, airy lead guitars, oppressive rhythms, and a mix of clean and dirty vocals from Chris Clancy, who you may know from As I Lay Dying, and Invictus. Lead guitar duties are to lock the hell down, with Tony Barham from Condition Critical providing those. And his tone is epic. And the one man behind this entire project, Frank D'Erasmo, who approaches thrash metal with his own and unique sound. I really enjoyed this album, and it had me feeling somewhat positive after I listened to it. As I just mentioned in Black Lung segment, I'm not used to listening to much in the way of motivational or positive music. So this was a nice change of pace, and especially because it was thrash. The drumming is tight as hell, alongside the ever-changing riff after riff of leads. It was a nice bed of heavy to contrast some of the lighter, brighter moments. And this album is extremely tight, but great. I'm really hoping you guys like this half as much as I did. And as I mentioned earlier, I had a great interview with Frank, and we sat and we talked about the quest for never-ending purpose and what went into it. He goes into depth about what went into the album, how he came about his sound, and how he came up with such killer choices to work with in Tony and Chris. So if you like this album, go over, check out the interview. It's quite informative. In Quest for Never-Ending Purpose by Legionary, I'm giving this one a high-ass B and an 87. This might actually be the front runner for Album of the Year for me. We're only 2 full months in. A little bit in the March, but 2 full months. And now for the album of last week. Beantown Bruisers in Final Gasp attempt to take your breath away with New Day Symptoms, their sophomore album released on Relapse Records. Post-punk banger with hardcore sensibilities, and I get a Drain meets Turnstile kind of feel. And as a fan of both, I really enjoyed this one. Darker vibed, I really like the way that the vocals match the riffage. And the low end of drums and bass really helped bolster that sound and thickened out the music. More of a mid-tempo than I would have liked, but I think that's what half of the appeal of this album was to me. New Day Symptoms by Final Gasp isn't anything trend-setting or mind-blowing, but the strength lies in delivering an extremely tight, no-filler album that just straight up rocks. This is a shorter one at only 32 minutes, but the changing tempos and feels provide drama over the 32 minutes. And honestly, as many times as I've heard this one, it feels a hell of a lot longer than that. But that's what you get when you put the thing on loop. The best part of the album is all the itches that it scratches, while still being just a straightforward ripper. And Final Gasp appeals to like the punk and rock side of my brains, the hardcore and metal components of my head, making this an easy choice, no matter what style of heavy you prefer. And I think one of the coolest parts about this album was, it still sounded good no matter what headspace I was in, or what I was looking to get from an album. Whether I needed anger or peace, calm or storm, it has it all. And the weirdest part about this album, I kept wanting more, and I kept wanting more. So I just played it again, and I knew more wasn't coming. But shit, if you listen to it 3 times, that's like more than 2. And the score on this one doesn't tell you how much I liked it, as this is really high on my list of releases. Regardless of score, I'm giving it an 84. So what did I miss? What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What are you looking forward to? And most importantly, thanks for hanging out with me. See you in the pit.